pretend with me for a few minutes. Pretend that I'm scrolling through my Twitter feed while I'm eating some chips out of a bag of chips. I was going to bring a real bag of chips, but then I'd end up getting crumbs all over. I'd talk with food in my mouth. I'd have to have something to drink, so we're just pretending here. They're gone. I don't even remember having eaten them. I don't remember what they tasted like. I was just eating them. Okay, so that's mindless eating, right? It's not too good for you. It's a barrier to our health. Mindless eating could lead to heartburn, if nothing else, but it can also lead to obesity and all the problems that go along with that. Let me give you a different example. You can slug down a cup of Joe, or you can enjoy your coffee. Now, when I make cappuccino, it's quite an involved process. I have to get the beans that I got from our local roastery here and grind them by hand in my steel burr mill grinder, and then put them in the grinds cup. I don't have one of those little tampy things like the baristas do, but so I put it in there, put some water in the reservoir, brew up the espresso, put some more water in the reservoir, steam the milk up, put the espresso in with the milk, and I got to clean it all up for next time. And then I'm ready to sit down with a cup of cappuccino, maybe even a croissant that I made that morning. No mobile devices, not even any print media, and certainly not my to-do list. I'm going to sit there, I'm going to enjoy my cappuccino that I went to such hard work to make. When I'm drinking cappuccino, I'm drinking cappuccino. So similarly, what does that have to do with mindless eating? So if you go to a lot of work to get your food, you're maybe more likely to be careful with it. I'm suggesting that gardening is a bridge to mindful eating. People, when you're gardening, you're out and you're enjoying the fresh air and the sunshine, you're getting exercise. If you're gardening in town, you're probably interacting with your neighbors a little bit. Even more so, if you went to all the trouble to grow this broccoli, you're less likely to boil it to death, drown it in Velveeta cheese, and bolt it down while you're watching Entertainment Tonight. You're more likely to be careful with it, to make a nice meal out of it, have some friends, family around the table eating it. When you're eating broccoli, you'll be eating broccoli. There's a lot of advantages to gardening. You get fresh, wholesome, tasty produce. Again, the fresh air, the sunshine. You also have a chance to eat produce that was selected for flavor. So for a lot of really good reasons, the produce you buy in the grocery store has been selected for ease of harvesting, standing up to the harvesting process, standing up to the shipping process, long shelf life. Flavor's kind of way down on the list. If you grow it yourself, you pick it, you eat it, you can select varieties that are made for taste and made for fresh eating. Now, people garden for all kinds of different reasons. My maternal grandfather, he was born in 1898 and lived to 1990. He always had a big garden. That's World War I, the Depression, World War II, so yeah, he always had a big garden. Earlier in his life, it was to help feed the family. Later in his life, he was retired, he had money, he could go buy food. Food's not really very expensive in the United States, but he still had a pretty substantial garden. He enjoyed working in the garden, he kind of enjoyed showing the garden off to his neighbors and showing the produce off, and we certainly enjoyed eating the produce. When I was growing up, my parents had a garden, usually just a small garden, tomatoes, lettuce, and things like that. We enjoyed the fresh produce. On the other side of the family, what are now my in-laws, they always had a big garden, big family out on the farm, and the garden really did have a big impact on the food budget. It really helped them feed the big family. But even when there was only 3 of them left on the home place, even last year, when they still had a big garden, not as big as it used to be, but still a pretty substantial garden. Why would they do that? They had food. They didn't need to do that. Well, they enjoyed working in it. It was outside. It was good exercise. They liked knowing where the food was coming from and how it was grown, what was in it. So then our family, our kids, grew up gardening as well. With that heritage of gardening, it's only natural that we would be gardening too. And our older kids have fond memories, maybe, or at least memories they like to share about all that work, hauling the water to the garden. Must not have scarred them too much because now they're off on their own and with their own places, and they have their own gardens. And then our youngest, who just went off to grad school, despite of what his older sisters say, he actually worked a little harder in the garden. Several years ago, we went commercial. We have some large market gardens where we grow produce for the farmers market and for some other customers. And our son really helped a lot with that, did a lot of work in the garden, in the market gardens. And now he's off someplace else, and we're kind of curious about when he's done with grad school and has a place of his own, is he going to get the gardening bug and have his own garden? We're even more curious about how we're going to do all the work now that he's not here to help us. So you're out, you're gardening, you're better able to know where your food's coming from and everything. You're more mindful in your eating, but wait, there's more. You might even start getting a little bit more mindful in our food system, the way in this country that we, can you see that? The way that we plant food, the way we harvest food, the way we send food off to market, the aggregation, the shipping, the wholesaling, the retailing, the purchasing, the preparing, the eating. Each one of those steps generates what I call detritus. I'm an ecologist, so I call it detritus. You might call it waste, but it's not really waste. It's not something we just throw away and has no value. It has a lot of value. We can get the nutrients out of that. We can get the organic material out of that and bring it back into the production process. All right, so when you're gardening, when you're raising your own food, you're more likely to be careful with it. You're probably going to eat more of it, but the part you don't eat, you're not just going to throw away. We hear that 50% of the food that leaves the farm goes into this detrital pool, gets wasted in a sense. You're not likely to only eat half your broccoli and throw the rest of it away. You're going to eat it. The part you don't eat, the part you can't eat, might go into compost to start the whole process again next year. So we've kind of gone a ways in our little short talk here from gardening, mindful eating, to being more mindful about preparing the food and eating it with others, and more mindful about the entire food system in our country. Let's take it one step farther. Maybe you have aha moments. I tend to have more, moments. It occurred to me, embarrassing how late in life it occurred to me, that every step in our economic value chain has costs and benefits. Now, I knew that. But what recently occurred to me is social justice. The idea that we should have a very deliberate discussion and involve everybody in that discussion about at each step who gets the benefits and who ends up bearing the brunt of the costs of each of those steps. Not just the food process, but where our energy comes from and how things get manufactured and what happens to areas that get polluted and so on. All right, so mindful eating, gardening, mindfulness about the food production system, mindfulness about our general economy. Could we make the world a better place one garden at a time? I'm not sure, but maybe we can give it a try. Thank you.